We often hear about addictions that are, well, truly devastating, the ones that can really derail lives and pose immediate danger.
Mm.
But what about the quieter ones? The subtle habits, the seemingly harmless behaviors that aren't life-threatening, but somehow still manage to steal away the quality of your life day by day, almost without you noticing.
That's a really crucial distinction. And based on the sources you share, particularly the ideas from Dr. Chris's book, The Soft Addiction Solution,
Hmm.
these are what are being called soft addictions.
Right.
They don't announce themselves with the same, intensity as hard addictions, but their cumulative effect is pretty significant. They sort of keep you from fully engaging with your life.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, which we've tailored specifically to the sources you've provided, that's our mission.
Hmm?
To really unpack what these soft addictions are,
Yeah.
to maybe reveal how they might be hiding in plain sight in your own life, and explore the practical steps outlined in this material to help you break free and build a more intentional, genuinely fulfilling life.
Okay, so let's dive in then. What really sets soft addictions apart from something like, say, substance abuse?
Yeah, what's the line?
Well, the key difference is you can't entirely avoid the activities involved. I mean, with hard addictions, complete abstinence from the substance is often the goal, right?
Right.
But soft addictions involve things woven right into the fabric of daily life. Eating, shopping, social interaction, even work. These aren't inherently bad things.
No, you have to do them.
Exactly. But they're the soil where these soft addictions can take root.
And because they are so intertwined with just normal life, they are incredibly widespread. I mean, the source mentions a survey in the US where a striking 91% of people actually admitted to having soft addictions.
Wow, 91%.
Yeah. And the author goes further, suggesting the remaining 9% are likely just in denial. That really puts the pervasiveness in perspective, doesn't it?
It really does. And, to help you spot them, the material breaks them down into 4 basic categories. It's quite a useful way to start identifying patterns in your own behavior.
Okay. How does the book categorize these? What are the buckets it puts these behaviors into?
So the first type is behavioral soft addictions. This is using activities specifically to distract, maybe to numb out,
Yeah.
or just escape from uncomfortable feelings.
Okay. Like what?
Well, think about that impulse to endlessly scroll on your phone whenever you have a free moment, or excessive TV watching, constantly checking social media for notifications and likes, actively avoiding real-life interactions,
Mm-hmm.
maybe oversleeping or staying up really late, doing things, aren't productive, gossiping, even things like overworking, compulsive shopping, or hoarding.
Oh, interesting. Overworking too.
Yeah, or like always defaulting to high-end experiences, maybe fancy restaurants, when simpler ones would actually suffice.
Okay. A lot of those feel uncomfortably familiar, I have to admit. What's the second category?
The second is avoidance. This one is often driven by underlying insecurity and fear. It's when you know you need to deal with something important or difficult, but you just procrastinate. You find excuses, you delay, you sort of minimize the problem so you don't have to confront it.
Okay. Any examples?
Yeah, the source gives examples like refusing to deal with a child's ongoing behavioral issues, or maybe ignoring those small, lingering conflicts with your partner, just hoping they'll go away on their own.
The classic put it off syndrome,
Yeah.
but taken to an addictive level where it's the pattern of avoidance itself. Sure.
Exactly. It becomes the go-to response.
And the third type.
That's the emotional and lifestyle category. This involves using frequent emotional reactions or specific lifestyle choices as a kind of shield or escape.
Hmm. How does that work?
Well, examples from the source include things like constant complaining, or always blaming others for your problems, habitual criticism of people around you,
Okay.
maybe using jokes about absolutely everything to avoid any moment of seriousness, or just maintaining this posture of consistent indifference like nothing really matters.
So the emotion itself is the habit.
Yes, these reactions help create a barrier, separating you from truly feeling things or engaging authentically.
Interesting. Okay, so the emotional reaction itself becomes the habit you default to avoid something else. Got it. And the fourth type.
Finally, the fourth category covers food and consumer goods.
Hmm.
This is when you experience agitation, maybe anxiety, or just restlessness if you can't have certain specific items.
Like a craving, but more intense.
Yeah, maybe it's particular fried food, sweets, coffee, or even specific high-end fashion brands. And there's this compelling, almost compulsive feeling that you must get them.
Okay, so we have the four types, which gives us categories to look at. That's helpful. But how do you really distinguish a soft addiction from, say, just having a hobby or really enjoying something?
Yeah.
What are the core signs that this behavior has crossed a line?
That's a crucial question, absolutely. The source points to two main indicators. The first key sign is that the activity consistently goes against your stated goals, your deeper desires, or your actual plans for your life.
Yep.
And the giveaway. Afterwards, it leaves you feeling empty, regretful, maybe self-blaming, or simply that the time spent was just meaningless. There's a clear disconnect between the action and your deeper aspirations.
So it's not just doing the thing, it's how you feel after doing it and whether it actually aligns with who you want to be.
Precisely. And the second indicator is how you engage with the activity. Are you doing it with full presence, focus, or genuine mindful enjoyment? Or are you being passive, almost controlled by the behavior itself rather than being intentional about it?
That distinction between passive and intentional feels really important. Can you give an example?
Well, the classic one the source uses is scrolling through short videos. You might think you're being entertained, but it's rarely focused, intentional enjoyment.
Yeah, you just kind of zone out.
Exactly. You're being passively fed content by an algorithm. You're just consuming whatever pops up next.
Yeah.
And the source points out that this isn't just a lack of concentration. It's actively killing your ability to concentrate deeply on anything else.
Wow. Killing concentration. That's a strong phrase.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets really interesting because the source includes a compelling neuroscience detail connected to this.
Oh, yeah.
There was a study mention from the Seattle Children's Research Institute that found the brains of children who were addicted to phones showed morphological differences, essentially. Visible shrinkage compared to healthy children.
Shrinkage, really?
Yeah, and the source states this isn't just limited to kids, it applies to adults too. It impairs higher level thinking, focus, memory, and even emotional regulation. That's a physical impact we're talking about.
Wow. That really shows these aren't just minor bad habits. They can actually rewire how our brains function. So if you see either of those core characteristics of the regret or misalignment or that passive engagement showing up consistently in a behavior, the source suggests you're likely caught in a soft addiction trap.
So we know what they are and how they show up. But why is it so hard to stop even when we suspect they're holding us back? I mean, they don't have the immediate negative consequences of hard drugs, so what's the hook? Why do we keep doing them?
Well, the key, according to the source, is that these behaviors aren't presented as inherently bad or some kind of, moral failing.
Right.
Instead, they're often misguided, temporary attempts to self-soothe. You had a hard day, you're stressed, you feel pressure, you're experiencing strong emotions you maybe don't want to face.
Yeah.
And these behaviors offer a quick, easy escape or comfort.
A way to relax, maybe? A distraction?
Exactly. But the danger is in their subtlety. Soft addictions are deceptive. They offer what the source calls a fake taste of satisfaction.
A fake taste.
Yeah, they make you think you're managing or even living a full life when you're actually just getting by on temporary external fixes. And over time, if you keep indulging, the real consequences start to pile up. Things like a creeping numbness, an inability to experience deeper, real emotions, a disconnection from the external world, and even your own inner needs. You start drifting away from your true goals, and that pervasive, creeping feeling of emptiness settles in.
That's the price you pay for the fake taste. Okay, so if these are so deeply woven into our lives and so subtle, how on earth do we even begin to untangle ourselves? What's the fundamental shift in thinking needed?
The source presents an underlying principle that's almost counterintuitive in modern life, actually. You need to learn to balance the paradox that much is little.
Much is little. What does that mean in this context? Help me unpack that.
What's fascinating here is this idea that in our era, we have so much abundance. I mean, too many choices, too much information constantly available.
Right, information overload.
Exactly. And that actually makes us lose sight of our fundamental core needs and passions. Instead of putting effort into pursuing things we deeply care about, we turn those potential passions into passive entertainment. It's just easier to watch someone else do something exciting online than to put in the effort ourselves.
And marketing certainly doesn't help, does it? Constantly reinforcing the illusion that buying more, consuming more, having more material goods is the path to happiness or fulfillment.
Absolutely. The source points this out too. We have more communication tools than ever, yet arguably a less genuine, deep connection. More possessions, but maybe less connection to the natural world, less time spent reading deeply, less quiet time for thinking, less time just being present. It feels like you have much, but you end up feeling like you have little of what truly matters.
Okay, I see. This paradox highlights the critical need for a clear mind in this incredibly chaotic, temptation-filled era. You need to be able to consciously distinguish between a soft addiction behavior, something that feels like much but is ultimately little, and a truly meaningful activity that actually feeds your soul.
Right. And that clarity is what allows you to make wise choices, moment by moment.
Okay. So the source doesn't just leave you with the problem and the principle, right? It provides steps.
It does. It provides 3 key steps to guide you in resolving these soft addictions and building that clear mind.
Okay, so what's the first thing the book says we need to figure out? Where do we start?
Step 1 is to discover the spiritual need. The core insight here is that every single soft addiction, no matter how trivial it seems on the surface,
Mm-hmm.
is ultimately being driven by an unmet spiritual need. The behavior is just a stand-in, a misguided attempt to fulfill something deeper. Your task is to look beyond the surface behavior and uncover that real underlying need it's trying and failing to meet.
So it's not about the shopping itself, for example, but what feeling the shopping is trying to capture.
Precisely. Examples from the source include someone shopping compulsively, not just for the items, but maybe seeking validation or respect.
Ah,
Or
oh,
obsessively following celebrity news might be a clumsy attempt to feel a sense of connection. Impulse buying could be driven by a need to feel seen, heard, loved, or validated.
right, right.
The Force shares a really powerful story about a woman named Tiffany, whose obsessive and incredibly expensive house, decorating, spending tens of thousands on windows, then rugs, then wanting to redo it all.
Wow.
It wasn't just about aesthetics. It was identified as an attempt to express deep dissatisfaction and, more fundamentally, fulfill a need for perfection and validation after she had left a successful career.
That story really makes it concrete. It shows how these aren't trivial behaviors at all. And seeing that underlying need, why is that the crucial first step? What does knowing the need do?
Because it instantly reveals the futility of the addiction itself. Decorating a house, no matter how perfectly, can never truly fulfill a deep inner need for validation or purpose, right?
Right.
Recognizing the actual need makes the addiction's promise feel hollow. It loses its power.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you uncover the root need. What's step 2?
That leads directly to step 2. Make core decisions. And the source makes a strong case here that simply deciding to stop a specific behavior isn't enough. Like just saying, okay, I'm going to stop eating junk food to be healthier. That's a surface decision.
Okay.
You need a more powerful guiding decision, a core decision.
A core decision. What makes it core? What's the difference?
Well, it's at the highest level. It acts like a lighthouse,
Yeah.
you know, guiding all your smaller daily choices. And crucially, it comes from deep within you, from your authentic self, not from trying to gain external validation or trying to control others.
Okay. Can you give some examples of what a genuine core decision sounds like according to the source?
Yeah, the source offers some compelling ones, like I want to love myself because I am life's most precious gift. Or deciding you want to be fundamentally honest, sincere, and trustworthy.
Mhm.
A desire to give unconditionally, perhaps, or to cultivate a rich inner soul, or to live rationally and fully in the present moment. See how these aren't about achieving something external?
Yeah, they're internal states of being.
Exactly. They spark a deep yearning for something greater and a genuinely fulfilling way of being.
That feels very different from a resolution to just stop doing X. Much deeper.
It is. And the author even shares a personal example of making a wrong core decision early on, dating someone solely to prove their own self-worth.
Ah.
Predictably, that didn't lead to fulfillment. It led to more dissatisfaction. So the source suggests ways to find your core decision, maybe listing desires you have for yourself, or reflecting on what you would want written in your biography someday.
Interesting exercises.
Yeah. And the power comes from identifying it and then truly committing to it. It becomes your internal compass for all those small daily choices. You know, do I pick up my phone or a book? Do I spend this money or question the need? Do I act on this task or procrastinate?
Okay, so uncover the need, make a guiding core decision. What's the final piece of the puzzle then? Step 3.
The third and final step is to build an overarching vision. This step is necessary because, as we discussed, soft addictions don't live in isolation, right?
Right. They seep in everywhere.
Exactly. They infiltrate all areas of your life. So just focusing narrowly on one behavior isn't enough. You need a comprehensive vision for your life, almost like building a solid foundation for a house that can withstand storms.
A vision for the whole picture, the whole life.
Exactly. It's about thinking through how you would live your life, guided by your core decision and your newly understood spiritual needs across all the important aspects.
Okay. Does the source give prompts or questions to help someone start building this vision? Because that sounds like a big task.
It does, thankfully. It suggests asking yourself things like, how do you truly see yourself?
Yeah.
What deep desires, beyond the superficial, do you genuinely want to fulfill? Things like learning, growing, contributing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you want your family relationships to be maybe sincere, mutually developing? How do you want to connect with others, giving value, feeling genuine belonging?
Okay.
How do you view work and leisure? What activities bring you into that state of flow?
Hmm.
And what kind of relaxation is truly restorative? It contrasts, virtual escapes with things like reading, spending time in nature, or physical exercise.
That contract is important.
Yeah. And finally, how do you want to contribute to society?
Wow, that covers a lot of ground. So it's not like a one-time exercise where you write it all down and you're done. It sounds more like an ongoing reflection.
Precisely. Continuously reflecting on these questions helps build this comprehensive vision piece by piece. It strengthens you from the inside out against the subtle pull of those soft addictions. And the source suggests that pursuing this vision, guided by your core decision and addressing your spiritual needs, can potentially change your entire destiny.
Wow.
But, and this is important, it does require persistent willpower and patience. It's definitely not a quick fix.
That makes sense. It's a journey, not a destination, right?
Mhm.
Speaking of the journey, does the source offer any practical tips to support someone while they're working through these steps, like day-to-day advice?
Yes, it provides 3 very practical pieces of advice. First, start doing.
Okay.
Don't wait until you have the perfect vision, perfectly mapped out, or a flawless plan.
Hmm.
The power is in simply starting with small habits. The source uses these beautiful analogies like rain gradually permeating the soil
Mm.
or diluted water eventually forming a lake. It kind of echoes ideas from books like Tiny Habits.
Mm.
Just begin, even if it feels insignificant at first.
Small actions lead to big changes over time. I like that. What's the second tip?
Second, add and subtract. Actively add things into your life that support your burgeoning vision and the person you want to be.
Okay.
And equally important, actively subtract things that pull you back into those soft addiction patterns. An example could be, say, adding 30 minutes of journaling daily to notice your feelings and understand your needs.
Right.
And maybe subtracting time spent scrolling aimlessly by uninstalling certain apps or games from your phone. This active adding and subtracting helps break that cycle of delusion the soft addictions thrive on.
Taking conscious control of your environment and habits. That makes sense. And the final tip.
Third, seek support. You do not have to build this overarching vision or break free from these patterns entirely on your own.
That's reassuring.
Yeah. Lean on your family, your friends, or others you trust. Accept help and good advice when it's offered. Connecting with others authentically is actually part of building that richer life anyway, and it provides crucial support on this journey.
That's really practical and encouraging advice. So to kind of sum
Mhm.
up, the core message from this material seems to be that true richness and fulfillment don't come from chasing that temporary external satisfaction offered by soft addictions.
No.
They come from looking inward, identifying, and meeting those deep inner spiritual needs we talked about.
Absolutely. It really emphasizes the necessity of cultivating a clear mind and making conscious choices in a world that's constantly trying to distract you and offer you much
Yeah.
that is actually little.
Mhm.
So if you've been feeling a sense of dissatisfaction, maybe stagnation, or just that something is off in your life, perhaps it is due to some unnoticed habits or soft addictions holding you back from what you truly desire.
Yeah. And the source leaves us with a really powerful question to consider, one that we'll leave with you, the listener, as well, to maybe sit with and reflect on after this deep dive. Are you really living the life you want?
Hmm.
If not, what is holding you back? And the key is don't look outside for the answer to that question. Look within.
Yeah. And if the answer is not yet or no, maybe that's a sign that now is the time to start taking action, guided by some of the insights from this material we've discussed today.